everyone, so today I will be doing a non-spoiler review of Serpent and Dove by Shelby Maurin. So this is the first installment of the Serpent and Dove series, which is a YA fantasy that sets mainly in France. So this book was released in 2019 and the final and last installment had just been released. I believe it was at the end of July. The third book was called Gods and Monsters, so that's why I'm really excited to finally start with the series. So as I've mentioned, this book is set in fantastical France where a witch is being hunted by the witch hunters that was employed by the church, and one of the witch protagonists here named Lou, she was eventually whisked away in an arranged marriage with one of the witch hunters because of a dubious circumstance. So the story mainly follows the navigation of their relationship and how there's a bigger threat looming for the kingdom. So this book is being told in the first point of view, and it actually switches back between Lou and Reed's point of view. Reed being the witch hunter that is partaking in the arranged marriage with Lou. With a point of view that switches back like this in a book, it's usually kind of confusing for the readers, but I would say that that problem is not applicable in this book, just because the point of view between Lou and Reed is easily distinguishable. Their personality is so different to begin with, and so that they have a really different voice, so it's just easier for the readers. With the writing style of this book, I would say that it's pretty much filled with exposition, especially at the beginning part of the story. So there's a lot of info dumping and contextualization. Although I would say that it's not the most spoon-fed information, the writing style will persist this way until the beginning portion of the story, and it will eventually come back at the very end of the book. So I believe this book has a 3-part, and I would say that the most enjoyable part to read is the second part, as the story contains less info dumping and it has more actions, so that it's just much more present and engulfing to read. So this is actually my critic towards the book, is that it has quite a lot of contextualization, especially the ending part that really gets on my nerves. So the info dumping at the beginning portion of the story I could really tolerate because the author needs to just let it out, and I expected that, okay, everything will come out now, so just bear with it. And I don't think it's the most spoon-fed info dumping ever. It's not like the author thinks that the readers are kindergartner where everything needs to be explained. And I was really happy at the middle portion of the story because the action finally arrived. But at the end of the story, the info dumping persists, and it really is a minus point because it takes me away from the story. I don't feel like I'm reading a story, I feel like I'm reading a Wikipedia of a story, and it kind of makes the story a bit boring, a little bit less interesting, because by concept the stake in this book is rather high. So like a lot of first installment of a series, the pacing of this book is something that will eventually get quicker. A lot of people say that the pacing in this book at the beginning is really slow, and I would agree with that. However, I personally think that it gets slow, fast, and then slow again, especially at the ending part of the story. As I mentioned, because there's a lot of info dumping at the ending portion of the story, I really feel like the story is slower than it already is. So to contextualize how much the info dumping that takes at the ending part of the story is that there's even one character, her function to be there is just to explain stuff, just to contextualize about the history of the kingdom, the witches, the prophecy. And in my opinion, I think it would just be better if the author could periodically explain stuff as opposed to just dumping on one part and dumping on the other. So there's not that many casts in this book. I would say that for the first installment of a trilogy, the amount of characters is quite adequate, be it center or side characters. So with the center characters, we have Lu and Reed. Lu, I would say that her character is quite typical when it comes to a witchy character. So she has this trickster and seductress vibe about her. It's not really a negative point or anything, but I would say that if I have to point out something that makes her different from any other witchy character, I wouldn't say that there's a lot. Still, she's very enjoyable to read. The way she talks is really entertaining. She's really funny. She has this feral energy about her, and it's just so fun to read her banter with Reed, who is somewhat of this like goody two shoes. Obviously, he was employed by the church to be a witch hunter, and so he kind of has this sanctimonious and holier than thou disposition about him. But he's also a man of action. So even though he's quite this archetypical church guy kind of character, he's still very lovable, just like Lu. I also heard a lot of discourse regarding the relationship dynamic between Lu and Reed. Yes, I agree that their relationship dynamic could be less than ideal. It could be borderline toxic. So for those of you who expect a healthy and ideal relationship, I don't think that the romance in this book will satisfy your thirst. As for the people who could set aside a less ideal relationship element of a book, the critic of the relationship between Lu and Reed, or just the relationship in the book in general, is that sometimes it could be too abrupt. So there's definitely a lot of discussion that point out how Lu and Reed's relationship is too instant and how it doesn't really naturally progress. And there's also the relationship between Lu and the Archbishop. So in one scene, it's like they're about to murder each other, and in the other scene, the exposition was like, oh, his eyes soften when he looks at her. And I'm like, yeah, where did that come from? I mean, I knew where did that come from. I know what's the reason. But even though the Archbishop has reason to do that, I wouldn't think that that change is completely justified, because I'm trying to read a story here. I need that progression, and I don't think the progression is explored enough in this book. And I do think that Lu's and Reed's relationship could get a little bit unnatural as well. Just because they could go easily from one extreme to the other. I would just wish that the book could explore much on a more milder relationship dynamic, like maybe add 2 or 3 scenes where they're just friends first before they just jump into, hey, I like you now, even though before that we're like literally enemies. So that would just be my nitpicky about Lu and Reed. I still ship them though, because their banter is really entertaining to read. It's really engaging, and I really like that dynamic between like feral lady versus like knife guy. I think that's really fun, but sometimes it still feels unnatural. The other character is pretty interesting as well. I wouldn't say that they're mouth-shatteringly interesting or anything like that, but they're not just written for the sake of being written. Like, they actually have a function to the plot, and that they could bring out the best of the 2 main characters. Like Coco, basically, she's Lu's wing woman, and when they interact together, Coco could really bring out Lu's wit. So it's really fun to read. And Coco also has her scenes while she's doing magic. So she's also a witch, but different from Lu, she's a blood witch. So basically her magic is like related to blood. She's really loyal to Lu, but she also has her personality of her own. She's also kind of like the seductress type like Lu, but she's more chill. She's less angrier than Lu, but she's as interesting as her. So I would talk about the magic system in this book. It's not the most complex or intricate or anything. It does have a positive point in which that it has a clear boundary. So magic in here is not treated as something that could solve everything. It demands balance, so when you actually use it, you need to pay for it. Also, because the context of the book, as I mentioned, is that witch is being hunted by the witch hunter, which can't just use magic to hide themselves. If they use magic, that magic will result in fragrances, like certain fragrances. So if the witches uses magic to hide, it will be counterproductive because the witch hunter will be able to smell it. It was quite an interesting system, even though it's very simple. Making such magic system is a good move for the author because it makes the story even more gripping. It makes the story has this balance between a romantic plot and also the plot of saving the whole kingdom as a whole. The story has a MacGuffin though, and it's quite used at the beginning, and then eventually as the story progresses at the third part of the story, I don't think it's being used again, of course, because Lu has the power of love, but I digress. Maybe it will actually be useful. I'm not gonna tell you which one is it because it might be a spoiler, but maybe we shall see for the next book. Maybe it will actually come into use. The ending of this book is, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily a cliffhanger, but the author really knows how to write it in a way that people will hype up the second book. I really want to read the second book, although I'm a little bit hesitant because I've seen the reviews on Goodreads and the second book I believe has a 3.6 stars out of 5. So it's not bad, but it's definitely not the best. It's kind of lukewarm, and I read some of the non-spoiler reviews from Goodreads is that they gave it a 3 stars because it's just a filler book. But I don't know, maybe I will wait for Gods and Monsters review first so that it could be the decision maker whether I should read it now or later. But as for this book, I pretty much enjoyed reading it, even though I would say that I enjoyed it less than I expected. I thought I was going to give this book like a 4 stars, but I eventually scored this book as 3.9 stars, not quite a 4 stars, just because I had that huge problems with the ending portion of the story. The info dumping is just too much. It gets really uninteresting when there's so much stuff that is being explained when you actually pretty much understood the context already. Still recommend this book for those of you who has no problem with the romantic plot. So if you guys are fans of the dynamic between Matthias and Nina from the Six of Crows, I think you might like this book. For those of you who wants to read a fantasy with a proportional amount of bigger plot and the romantic plot. So that was today's non-spoiler review of Serpent and Dove by Shelby Maureen. I hope that this review will help you in determining whether this book is worth your time or not. Please let me know in the comment section below whether if you're planning to read this book or if you have read this book. Please share your thoughts. I would like to thank everyone who made it through the end. Thank you guys so much for watching, and may your tea will always be warm for reading.